Welcome back to the FB podcast. Today we will dissect a transfer deal that is shocking the market, a name that no one thought would wear the Red Devils shirt a few months ago. Victor Gyokeres, once valued at nearly 100 million euros, associated with a series of big clubs, is now closer to Manchester United than ever. Many of you will wonder, why is that? The player prioritizes the Champions League, the club criticizes the high price and high salary, but in the end they come back together in a strange arrangement of the transfer market. In particular, it seems that some information is spreading that Gyokeres is hesitating to join Old Trafford. However, based on the reliable data we have from sources, the truth is completely different. He is not hesitating, on the contrary. He is very willing and active in moving to Manchester United when the Champions League requirement is no longer a barrier and the price has been given the green light by his side at 70 million euros. So why did other big clubs initially turn their backs on him, and now why has Manchester United become the most promising destination for Gyokeres? After all those changes, let's analyze it in depth. Do you remember not long ago the name Victor Gyokeres was very famous? Everyone thought he would join a big team with a Champions League spot. The price was around 100 million euros, but then Arsenal closed Benjamin Sesko. Chelsea also quickly got Liam Delap. So why did these big guys turn around so decisively? It's not natural that a striker who scored 54 goals last season, a key drill of Sporting, was ignored by these big guys. Perhaps they saw rough spots that we need to dissect carefully. First is Gyokeres was born in 1998, which means he is 27 years old. Guys, at this age, a player is almost a finished product, no longer has the potential for sudden development. Buying is to use immediately, not to train, test, or hone anything. But when buying it for immediate use, people will scrutinize every detail, and that's when the tiny points suddenly become fatal minus points. The clearest example is an extremely strange statistic in the entire 2024-2025 season. Victor Gyokeres did not score a single goal with his head. Can you believe it, guys? A striker who is 1m89 tall, has a muscular body, is good at fighting like a tank, but does not know how to head the ball. Looking at the bigger picture, in the 2023-2024 season, he scored 2 goals with his head, and in the 2022-2023 season, he also scored 2 goals against English First Division teams. This is no longer a weakness, but a real hole in his playing style. In a Premier League environment full of tall defenders, the fact that a tall striker cannot head the ball is clearly a difficult paradox to swallow. And then in terms of finishing skills with his feet, there's no need to discuss. Gyokeres shoots very hard, very dangerous, very fast. But because of that, sometimes he becomes too dependent on space. He needs space, needs momentum, needs a turn or a wall jump to create a favorable shooting position. If the opponent plays low block defense in large numbers or presses tightly, making it difficult for him to turn around, then Gyokeres will have a bit of a hard time. The narrowed space also means that his scoring opportunities are also limited. This is a huge problem when you want to own a main striker who can solve any situation. In addition, there is the factor of long-term value. Gyokeres' release clause is nearly 85 million euros, and even if Sporting sells Friendly for 60 to 65 million euros, it is still a very high fee for a 27-year-old player. Signing a 5-year contract means you'll be tied to him until he's 32 in age, when no one expects his price to rise. If his performance drops, his club risks being stuck with a high-paid, no longer young player with no resale market and no way to recoup their investment. Most big clubs now either invest in young players who can make a profit or buy superstars who can decide games right away. Gyokeres is stuck, not young enough to make a profit, not good enough to be considered a superstar. He's already matured and almost all his qualities have been established. Shining at Sporting is one thing, but whether he can maintain that performance in a more pressured environment like the Premier League is anyone's guess. In this day and age, certainty is something that sporting directors are very concerned about, especially when club finances are increasingly tightened by financial fair play rules and supervision from UEFA. However, despite such careful analysis, what is made of Victor Gyokeres with so many holes and ripples so close to Manchester United? You know, Gyokeres himself has given the green light with a price of 70 million euros, and the Champions League requirement is no longer a barrier. News from Portugal confirms that he is ready to leave for a price of about 70 million euros, much lower than the previous release of 100 million. So if that information is true, then this is not simply a number, it is a measure. Because besides Manchester United, there is no club outside the C1 group that has both the financial strength and the need to invest in a striker like Gyokeres. Gyokeres. Arsenal have Sesko in their sights. Chelsea have Liam Delap and are still evaluating Jackson, although they still need a quality number 9, and Gyokeres is still a high-class plan B if there is no better option. Manchester United may be leading the race for Victor Gyokeres, not because they are smarter than the rest, but because they are still there when other bright players have withdrawn. But don't underestimate the true value of Gyokeres, a striker who scored 54 goals last season and is the main drill in Ruben Amorim's system. Coach Amorim knows all about his strengths and weaknesses, building a system that is just enough to limit his weaknesses and exaggerate his strengths, namely his ability to finish with his feet and press off the ball. He doesn't need him to be a wall or turn into Benzema, but knows how to make Gyokeres explode in his own way. At 70 million, of course, this is not a cheap deal, but if Man United really closes this deal, it will be a reason for them to open champagne to celebrate, because in the context of Man United's attack last season, finishing was painfully poor, the chance conversion rate was one of the lowest, and the strikers almost had to rotate between an erratic Højlund and Rashford. Then a solid striker like Gyokeres can be the perfect patch. He doesn't need much of the ball, doesn't require the system to serve, just needs space to shoot, and when he shoots dangerously hard and decisively. This is a quality that is lacking someone who doesn't tremble when facing the goal. So the question now is how to use Gyokeres properly. At Sporting, Amorim didn't try to turn him into a number 9 who connects the whole line, but kept him like a trident rushing straight into the penalty area. This helps Gyokeres maximize his pressing and counter-attacking ability. If Manchester United want to use him effectively, they need to build a similar system, either a genuine counter-attack or create space for him to maneuver, making Gyokeres turn his back on the ball. I think that acting as a wall for Bruno or a Mount is akin to killing himself. He doesn't have the legs of Harry Kane or the flair of Benzema. He's the type of striker who needs to be released, not restrained. Manchester United need a striker who can solve their goal-scoring problems immediately, and Gyokeres, despite his limitations, is the most realistic option at the moment, especially since he has lowered his demand. So there you have it. The story of Victor Gyokeres and Manchester United is an ironic but equally fascinating scenario. He is not the first target of the big clubs, but with his willingness to lower his price and ignore the Champions League requirements, plus the fact that Manchester United is in dire need of a quality striker, this is an urgent marriage but can completely bring unexpected results. Personally, I believe that if Ten Hag and his team can build a suitable playing style to exploit Gyokeres' strengths to the fullest, especially his finishing and pressing ability, then this 70 million euros can be a completely worthwhile investment, turning an outdated drill in the eyes of one person into a destructive weapon in the hands of another. What do you think about this deal? Can Gyokeres be the solution to the Red Devils' attack problem? Leave a comment below, like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other in-depth analyses. Thank you for listening to the FB Podcast.